Welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. So today we're going to talk about the Star Trek episode, The Elysian Kingdom. So I believe this is episode 8 of season 1 of Strange New Worlds. So I think we've only got 2 more in the first season, which is good because I wanted to get through these. I got to get all the way through 2 before 3 comes out. So I've got a lot of work to do, but this is good. We're making progress. So this is the episode where an entity from outside the ship finds the doctor's daughter and tries to make a world where the doctor's daughter can live healthy and happily by turning the ship into a fairy tale world. So this is going to sound kind of dumb. I'm not a big fan of the holodeck episodes. I don't like when they're doing Sherlock Holmes or any kind of trapped in the past or whatever, right? The holodeck, to me, just seems a way for the writers to explore something different because they need a break, which is fine. I do want to make it clear that I like Star Trek. Straight up, I like it. I will watch those holodeck episodes. They're just not my favorite, right? And clearly, obviously, this is not a holodeck episode. The holodeck doesn't even get mentioned until the cartoon series after the original series. And this is taking place before the original series. This is when Pike's on the Enterprise, right? So they don't even have a holodeck as far as I know. So it's clearly not a holodeck episode, but for me it kind of falls into that area. They are trapped in this weird world and they've got to figure a way to get out. I also include, like, you remember when Kirk and Spock go to the gangster planet and they have to act like gangsters, right? I mean, there are some silly episodes, and to me this is kind of a silly episode. It is not my favorite, but I do have to say the whole crew, everybody takes it very seriously, and I do appreciate that. This is a serious, sad episode. This is not like I Am Not a Merry Man, right? This is a tearjerker, really. But let's get into it. I'm not going to go over the plot or anything. You've all seen it. So there's a really nice scene in the beginning between Una and the doctor because she's his boss and he's slacking off. Now, she understands that he's slacking off because he's trying to save his daughter, right? She understands the situation. So she shows a lot of heart there by saying, "You do not need to do your duties right now, but I am ordering you to go get some rest so that you can approach all things with a clearer mind." So he goes back to his cabin, of course. So I appreciated that. That's really great. There's a really neat exchange between Spock and Hemmer that I really enjoyed from this episode. It's kind of silly to say, but it's very technical. Spock is like, "I believe that this is what's happening," and Hemmer's like, "I concur with this." They have a very professional, neat kind of back and forth between the two of them that the captain has to weigh out and decide what to do based on the information he's receiving, of course. And I really, really loved that very kind of professional and technical discussion that was had so that the captain could make an educated decision. I really appreciated that. That was pretty fun. Like I said, the actors are all taking it very seriously. They're doing some really, really silly stuff in this episode. Especially Pike. Pike is a totally different... And I do want to point out, because this is going to come up in later videos, these characters that the way that they're cast in the Star Trek show is their type. Okay? Actors have types. So you can look at someone on the street and say, wow, that person reminds me of a general from a bunch of movies that I've seen. Because generals usually look the same in Hollywood films, right? If you watch a bunch of Hollywood movies with generals in them, you're going to see kind of a bigger guy with kind of a gruff voice sitting back with all of his stuff on, you know what I mean? Um, it's the same like with the boy next door, right? If you're going to have kind of this romantic guy character that lives next door, and it's kind of a romance thing, that's going to be a specific type of actor, right? You're not going to put Arnold Schwarzenegger as the guy next door. It's a tiny bit jarring, right? I'm not saying he couldn't do it, and I'm not saying he wouldn't be good at it, but I am saying that it's against his type, right? Actors have specific types, and Hollywood is very good at casting people of the right type for the right role. So, all of the actors in this show are cast on type, right? Pike is very Kirk, which I hate to say, we'll get into it later in later videos, but that was the point of grabbing this actor. They wanted a do-gooder, right? They wanted somebody who was kind and funny and strong, right? They wanted a Kirk type in this role because they were kind of trying to redo the original series. So they grabbed this other actor, and he's great. And in this episode, he gets to work against that type by playing a cowardly fool. And it really is against type. And it's fun to watch. It's also a little bit cringy to watch for me because the actors are working really hard to pull off this other thing that they're not used to. Doesn't mean they're not doing a good job. Doesn't mean they're not happy to be doing it. But it's not normal for them, right? You've got the head of security wearing that big dress and singing, and she's got a little dog with her. And you've got the Nurse Chapel is this weird witch person who acts like she doesn't really know the king, right? The doctor who comes in like, oh, you haven't been here forever, right? I mean, there's weird stuff. Pike is the one that kind of stuck out the most for me because it's pretty cringy to watch most of it, but some of it is hysterical. That part where he's like, the walls are closing in when he's in the cell. It's excellent, right? There's a few really great comedic moments throughout this. But it is against type for most all of these actors, so it's interesting to watch. It's very strange. But they do take it very seriously, which is great. They're working really hard. And I think it's because of the legacy of Star Trek, right? There have been hundreds of silly Star Trek episodes, and people love Star Trek. So it's okay to do silly episodes because it's Star Trek. So one question that I kind of had as I was watching the episode is, why are there two people that are not affected by this entity taking over and changing the ship? And Hemmer, they kind of explain, because Hemmer has kind of a psychic ability, so he was able to shut off the invasive attack that would make him forget everything and become this other person. So he was able to block it out. But the father, I'm not sure about. And of course, you can make up reasons. You can say, well, it is his daughter that the entity has taken and has extrapolated this story from. And maybe the daughter didn't want wanted the father to be conscious of what was happening, didn't want him to just play a role. And I don't like having to make excuses like that, as you guys know. I want the story to be solid, to be told to me. I don't want to make it up for them. right? I don't mind filling in gaps if there's only one choice, but if it's multiple choice, then I'm just writing the story for him, and I don't like that at all. Um, she does literally say, "Did you have fun?" So it is suggested that maybe she's the reason that he wasn't affected, but I do wish they would have gone a little bit further with that. It all boils down to, and this is the real kicker for this episode. I think this episode is probably going to be in the future. This is one of those episodes that'll probably be really liked or really hated, depending upon who you are. It comes down in the end that he has to choose between the crew of the Enterprise and his duty and his daughter. He has to choose. Are you going to take care of your kid, or are you going to do your job? And I don't think I love this question. I don't think this is a theme that I really enjoy, because parents should and do and can do both. That is not a question. Do you want a career or a kid? That is not a question, right? But they make it a question in this episode. Now, this brought up a lot of weird stuff for us, because at first, this series was flirting with not being Monster of the Week, right? They had these through lines, these strong through lines that they were pulling through these episodes. And I feel like that's dropped off, which I'm very thankful for. I think that that is a good decision for your base level Star Trek, which is what Strange New Worlds is. It's the base level Star Trek. As long as this exists, you can make any other kinds of Star Trek you want, right? Because that's the thing these days, right? You want a universe where you can make 20 different shows like Star Wars does, or like Doctor Who's doing, or like Star Trek is doing, right? That's the goal. So this baseline just needs to be the original series. That's all they need. So I have a stupid theory, which really can't be true, but I'm still going to say it because it's my stupid theory. I believe that this episode was kind of left unfinished because they wanted to leave themselves open to watch what people enjoyed from Strange New Worlds and what people didn't enjoy from Strange New Worlds, so they could determine their path for the future. Were they going to go straight Monster of the Week, or were they going to have this kind of soap opera idea going on? And I think they decided to just go Monster of the Week, and they got rid of the kid. And that's where I land on this. It feels really awkward to me because the Doctor literally chooses his job over his child, and his child is taken away. Now, they do have the kid come back like 30 seconds later as an adult and say, "You did the right thing. Everything's cool. See ya." Right? So at least he's kind of let off the hook, right? But it's so weird. It's so, like, I don't know. Because Star Trek has done it before, right? You've got like the first film. I think that the one person chooses to go off with V'ger, right? Like Wesley takes off with this Voyager guy or whatever. And I mean, it's happened in Star Trek before. Generally, though, it's an adult who says, "I want to do this, so I'm going to do it." It's not a kid, right? A kid making that decision is intense. And there's a lot of baggage, of course. The kid's going to die, right? Right? But that's weird too. Like, what happens after death? We don't know. We like to pretend that we know, but we don't know. If you prolong your life, what are you missing? I don't know, right? So I don't know. It was a very odd, weird thing, you know. And it doesn't help that he's African American and we're dealing with him and his child, which sort of brought me back to Next Generation with Worf and his kid, right? Constantly pawning off. And it also feels like Mandalorian, although that's kind of a different thing. But it is funny that we happened to discuss that just recently, so that just popped in my mind. But I don't know. That's an awkward subject, and I really feel like I, I I'm happy that this is Monster of the Week, and I'm sad that they dealt with that thing that they set up in that way. It's so weird, right? It's sad. I mean, the actors do an incredible job. It's a hell of a scene, but I don't know, man. It was weird. This is probably my least favorite that I've seen so far. I'm going to give it a 6 because apparently we're only doing 1 through 5, even though we want to call it 10. All right. So 6 is what I'll give this one because it is still Star Trek, right? I'm not talking about some horrible movie that I actually really didn't like. You know, I love Star Trek. I love watching it and just being able to relax and enjoy, you know, time passing. But this was not my favorite because it just got strange. Yeah, but that's it for that. I hope you enjoy this. We're going to get on with the other two ASAP so that I can get through these. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button. If you like watching these, hit subscribe. We got a bunch more for you pretty quickly, I hope. And have a great day. Thanks.